here to discuss all things NRL and anything sports related. Please give a warm Aussie g'day to the footy fanatic and America's own Corey Jackson in Outside the Sheds.
Greetings and salutations and welcome back to Outside the Sheds. Shedheads, I hope your week has been going well. I don't know how your week could not be going well after the incredible round 3 we just experienced. We got it kicked off on Thursday night, and really we just rode that wave out like Bodie off of Bell's Beach the whole rest of the way, did we not? It was an incredible round, a lot of highlights, but let's start off with the most important things. Who's the hot guy on campus? And that would be me, your Shedadamus, because your Sheda just went 6 for 8 for picks for this last week. I told you guys, kind of like the Waz in Vegas, it was an aberration. Because since then, I've been on fire. I've been constantly climbing the ladder. Meaning I'm getting back to my sparring best. Those hands. I'm giving people the hands, as they would say back in the day, right? But before I keep, how should I say, touting or tooting or whatever you want to say with my horn, and that's between Mrs. Shedadamus and myself anyway, let's go into round 3, breakdown, and it all kicked off, like I just said, with the grand final rematch, Panthers versus the Storm. The Premier's going down to Melbourne. You got birds all over the field. It was a trap game. Storm 30, Panthers 24. I've got to say something. When it was 14 points in the favors of the Storm, I think we all thought that thing was over with. And boy, we got a performance, I would say, which was all heart, kind of like we talked about last week on this show. What championship teams have deep inside them that a lot of clubs just can't seem to figure out. Now, I'm not going to go into a deep dive on this quick breakdown because we're going to really go into this one as I go over a couple of things from this last round. But the Storm, again, getting a big victory. I think they've got quite a few big victories over the Panthers during the regular season. The problem is they just can't get them over the top since Cameron Smith. Warriors 14, Roosters 6. Playing their second game at home in a row on the Rumble Islands. The Waz concede the first try, but then they just end up taking it to them. Taking it to the Chooks. Really impressive game by the Waz all the way around. And I really am starting to like how that halves combination between Chanel Harris-Tavita and Luke Metcalf, it's really kind of starting to round into form. Like I said last week, Luke is really starting to look like he is enjoying having that 7 on his back from his celebration after that last try. And I really wanted to see Chanel Harris-Tavita getting back to the Scorpion King and to that running best that he likes to do. He looked good, and I think they're just rounding into form. The sad part to me is you've got Tamery Martin just sitting on the bench on that club, and that guy's got so much talent. And just finding a way for him to get into the side has been very, very tough. And I really don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with that, but I think we're missing a major component that can make a difference. And then, words come out this week that on an immediate transfer, Dylan Walker has now left the Waz and is now joining immediately the Parramatta Eels. So that's kind of a thing that just came out of the blue. But, the Waz have a way of letting players that seem to need to leave New Zealand for whatever reason, they really work with these players and letting them get back to Sydney or wherever they need to go. But, again, a very, 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 very good win because we saw how good the Chooks can be after what the performance they put in against the Panthers. But they really can't be that upset themselves. That's a tough trip, especially after the victory they had. So a really good match all the way around. Broncos 26, Cowboys 16. The addition of Tamalolo, Clifford, and Nanai really helped the Cows look like they kind of had a chance in this match. I know I picked them. When I heard those additions were going to happen, I really thought that the Cows might be able to pull off something stunning. We know how the Queensland Derby can turn out. A lot of times a team looks like all the money's going one way, and then all of a sudden one of the teams just do something pretty impressive. But they showed a lot of improvement. I really like Jake Clifford. I think that guy has, it's been talked about for years, the potential that Jake Clifford has. It just didn't work out well for him for the Knights. He went over to England. He played well. He's back. I just hope that they can find a place for him in that side, because I do think he does make a difference. Tamalolo started to look well. You know it's going to take Jason a couple weeks for him to really get back to his barnstorming best. And I know, all of us know the type of player Jeremiah Neni is. So you know that he's going to get back, especially how bad he played defensively, which got him stood down for a week. But really impressive, the Cows, how they kind of turned that around. But the Broncos still win, baby, right? Like the great owner of used to say back at the Raiders, they just win, baby. And that's what they did. They took it to them. And, you know, I think everybody on paper saw that the Broncos were the better club. The Broncos probably were going to hold serve. They did that. But Payne Haas is a freak. He wins the Carl Webb medal, which I think everybody who watched the match knew that was going to happen. But this guy, he's something impressive. And the shape that he's in right now, if he can stay healthy, he almost single-handedly might yank the Broncos into top 4, which I think they already have the potential to do. I think they're going to be battling with the Doggies to get there, but still, and the Sharks. Those 3 teams, I think, are going to be battling for the top 4, but still, big victory. Anytime one of those clubs wins the Queensland Derby, you know that's bragging rights. And then the Broncos turn right around and take on that other team in Queensland. The Finns, the Dolphins, come to Suncorp next week. Sharks 27, Rabbitohs 12. Sharks go straight Harlem Globetrotters in the first half. That try that started Ronaldo Mulatalo and finished off with Eero scoring, that was insane. I don't know. We all know that Ronaldo likes to live on the edge a little bit. Either he's talking a little trash or whatever, but the guy's got game all the way around. But to have the wherewithal to try to bring that ball out of the end goal line and then put together what he did with Eero was impressive. But then all of a sudden, after getting a big halftime lead like that, they kind of fall off again in the second half. And I think this really makes me a little bit worried about the Sharkies. I told you they're going to be in a battle with the Bronx, with the Doggies, and them. I think those 3 teams are going to battle for those last 2 positions in the top 4, because I think when it's all said and done, the Panthers will be up there and the Storm will be up there. But that second half breakdown that they've done now 2 weeks in a row, I know is not going well with Fitz. And we'll have to see, because there's got to be improvement. They've got to shore that up, especially with the match they've got coming up this round against the Dogs, which could be the blockbuster of the round. But good victory again. Rabbitohs really looked, they won the second half, but that first half really gave them no chance to really get back into the competition, into that match. Tigers 30, Dolphins 18, down by 12 on the road. The Tigers bring the jungle up to Red Cliff and get the victory. It was awesome. Galvan, De Silva, the young pies in there really mixing it up. I'm not going to go into deep with that because the Tigers are the second team that I'm going to talk about when I go into a deep dive of round 3. But a big victory. And if you're a Tigers supporter, for the first time in a long time, there's got to be a smile on your face about what this club is showing. Titans 26, Knights 6. Desperation, energized. That's, I think, what you could see that the Titans club brought to the field in that match. They were desperate, but they had the energy. And the Knights did not have any of those 2 things, because the Knights really were never in the match. Tito was running over people. Tito, yeah, he's not a member of the Jacksons, is he? But the flow was going nonstop. He was going one way. And that spine, I'm telling you this, probably the best running spine in the competition is the Storm. But with AJ, Campbell, and Keanu Kenny in that's a dangerous running spine. Unfortunately, Keanu Kenny got a neck injury and is not playing this round, but you've got to feel good if you're the Titans after that performance over the Knights. And then you kind of, if you're a Knights fan, going, all right, what happened here? Because truthfully, if you think about it, even though they've had an all right start to the season, they probably should have lost round one against the Tigers. That they found a way to get the victory. So even though on paper it looks like a good start to the season for O'Brien's men, maybe it isn't as strong. Even though Kalen Ponga has been playing some incredible footy, it makes you wonder really how good that Newcastle team is in some ways. Bulldogs 16, Eels 8. Minus Burton can kick out the Dogs, struggle in a victory. Toby Sexton played all right. He still kind of led the team around. But I've got to say, I was more impressed, even though they did lose the match, with the Parramatta Eels. And here's something that you don't say often, but I say all the time. I think players that can bring emotion can lift sides, right? Some people think it's strategy. Some people think that it's tacking fundamentals. All those things are important. But if you have a live wire in that side, it can change a lot. It can change the belief. And the addition of Josh Adokar back into it, and I don't know if the Fox was just motivated, he was taking on his old club. But I will say this right now. It was intoxicating watching Adokar. Now, he might have removed a right buttock of one of his fellow players with that try celebration when he smacked him on the rear end. I know doctors that have not hit babies that hard, if you know what I mean, because the look on that guy's eyes, that player, he didn't know what the heck happened. He didn't know if he was going to have to call human resources or what, but the Fox plastered him. And but I think that's the thing we're talking about right here. That type of emotion, that type of excitement that the Fox brings to the field, that was a totally different Eels club. And the crazy thing about it is Lomax was the best player on the field for the entire game, but Dylan Walker was still almost absent the entire game, and they played well. I'm saying they were right in it late, where if you were a betting man, and I did say I took the Bulldogs, I was very concerned that the Eels might try to come in here and be the spoiler in that match. That's how well they played. Now, to me, the real question is, do they use that momentum they've got, even in a loss, and really be ready for round 4? And we're going to see that very, very shortly. And finally, Sea Eagles 40, Raiders 12. The Baby Greens lose their first match of the season, not without a little controversy. Some of the calls in the match from the referee and the officials. Hey, I'm not sticky. I can call it how it is. I'm not getting fined by the NRL. There were some lopsided calls. There was some, there was just some really hazy shade of winter stuff that was going on at Fortress Brookvale. But that being said, taking the Sebastian Chris try off, sending Big Red to the box, that type of stuff really, I think, flipped the momentum in that game. And then the rest of it was just the new father, Ruben Garrick, putting on his 4 tries and putting together a masterclass performance. But that's the thing about Manly. I said this the last 2 weeks. Which Manly's going to step up this week, right? Which Manly's going to... They're just yo-yoing up and down the field. And with that scoreline, you think they're just, out of the box and just running down the field and just destroying fools, right? But, again, they did that without Turbo. They're a very, very strange and unique club with the talent they have, with some of the performance that they put out there. And I'm almost like I'm talking down about Manly, which is not the case after the performance they had. But the question is, what is their performance going to be like this week? You know what I'm saying? That's the stuff that makes you go, I don't know what to really expect from the Sea Eagles going forward, especially after the headlines that have kind of hit the northern beaches, which we'll go into in the 40-20. Now, Shedada's, it just seems to me every week this season we've had a Titanic matchup. And I was looking for the word that both the best said what I was trying to convey there, but Titanic is it. Because every week, if we look out round one, we had the Sharks and the Panthers in Vegas, right? Which we saw an incredible match where those two teams put it all out on the field. Round two, we had the Broncos versus the Raiders down in the nation's capital, where the Baby Greens got the upset. But none of those two matches had the buzz of the GF rematch between the Storm and the Panthers. And the great thing about it is we all knew we would not be disappointed about what we saw that happened on the field. And after an early Grant Anderson try and Meany conversion, the game was really tipped on its head, was it not, Shedheads? Who here, raise your hands in the classroom, who here whose mouth did not drop open when Nathan Cleary went down? And I think everybody knew instantly, watching how Nathan looked, he was not coming back into that match, right? The question for me was, did he re-injure his shoulder? Because how he landed, that looked very awkward the way that he landed on his shoulder. And I know a lot of people thought that they were more worried about that than they were the concussion protocol that could probably rule him out of the game. Did Nathan re-injure that shoulder? Fortunately for the Panthers, it looks like it's just all concussion protocol and that he's going to be back and the shoulder did not get re-injured. But I think it made a lot of people, and that's no matter if you're a Panthers fan or not, the best player in the game, you do not want him to go down from that type of an injury. And it was just one of those freak injuries that you just don't see. But when the score hit 14-0 off of that Katoa try and then the Meany conversion, and then Meany hitting the penalty, did not all of us, again, you can raise your hands, I'm taking class. Did all of us not have that feeling that this could be a runaway jury, that this could just be a carriage in the Wild Wild West running out of control without somebody grabbing the reins at the top? That's what I'm talking about. It just felt like this could really get away from the Panthers. But then the heart of the champion showed up. I've talked about it time and time again. We've talked about it. I can't even tell you the amount of times I've talked over the last 4 years about this Penrith Panthers side. And this Penrith Panthers side, Cleary's gone. Their captain, the guy that really steers them around, their face, and I'm not taking anything away from Isaiah Yeo. You know that he is one of the best. But the heart of the champion showed up. And that is when that Penrith system kicks in, where guys just fill in and take over, right? And Paul Alamati, this guy is a try machine right now. He gets a double, and we go into halftime 14-10. Like that, right? All of a sudden, a match that looked like it was getting ready to just run free, like I just said, like a runaway stagecoach, turns into the match that we're hoping for, right? And you saw Craig Bellamy's face up in the box. Bellyache knew that the champions were going nowhere, that the premiers were not going to take a knee, that they weren't going to just say, hey, Nathan's out of this, let's just kind of ride this thing out, see how he is, go into the next week, because that's not the Penrith Panthers. And after half, when the Panthers took the lead after the Casey McLean try and the Alamati conversion, that's all I needed to see. I had a feeling deep down that they were not going to be able to come back and win that match. But it's a long, long, long season, the NRL season. And to say that we haven't even begun to see the twists in the road that we're going to see that pretty much lead every one of these teams that we're talking about into a different trajectory in their season that they probably don't see right now coming. Penrith is going to be there again when it's all said and done. And that's what I took away from it. I took away from that match, we got everything as rugby league fans that we want. And that is the hard hits Ask Nick Meaney about that, because Nelson just fractured his jaw with that gigantic head of his, and now Meaney's going to be out for a while. But it just really impressed me, and it just showed me why, even though they're not the betting favorites, Penrith is still going to be there in the end. And that's what I took away. When that final siren hit, and yes, Melbourne got the victory 30-24, which we all know, because how could you not watch this match? I saw something in both teams' eyes that was something different. I saw in the Storm boys more of a statement in their eyes, a sense of relief. They almost felt like, wow, I'm just happy that game is over, because those guys were not going away. And I don't know why they're not going away, but they're not going away. And in the Penrith boys' eyes, I saw a steel resolution, a resolve that they had in them that, oh, okay, we've been here before. We've lost before to the Melbourne Storm in the regular season. We've lost before to them with Nathan going down, and we've never gotten blown out by them, even with the best player in the game taking a knee or having to leave the field. Why has anything changed? And I was impressed by Blaise Talungi coming in there. Cole, I'm going to say something. They've got to feel really good about Cole going forward as well. But Penrith impressed me. And I don't know if I've ever said this, but a team 2 weeks in a row, because they've now lost twice in a row, and I can't even remember the last time they've lost two in a row like that. But to me, I feel more empowered from those last two losses than I do anything else. Because Penrith showed me they shouldn't have been anywhere close to in the game against the Chooks, and they had the ball late and were close to going in and saying it to Golden Point. And almost the exact same thing happened in the Melbourne match, where they were right there towards the end, sniffing around, trying to tie this thing up with barely, without one of the most important weapons or bullets in their gun. And that's why they're the team that they are. That is why they are the Premiers, is because the system they've got in place there, these guys know how to just fill in the key components and pieces and go right into it. But I think when we go through all of that, such a seismic type of clash is going to leave us with a couple things. One, it keeps us salivating and waiting for that next matchup between these two teams. But also, there is going to be a war of attrition from a match like that. And you just hope, with it being round 3 so early in the season, that the injury cart doesn't get too big. And unfortunately, we've got quite a few injuries that are coming out of this. Jerome Hughes, broken hand, is out now 3 to 4 weeks. I know Wishart is coming in to take his spot in the halves. Nick Meaney with that fractured jaw is out 4 to 6 weeks. You would think Pappenhausen is going to take over the kicking duties now. And then Big Nelson. Big Nelson started to feel dizziness in it, and I don't know, was it because of the flying bullet to the head that he gave him from his cranium to Nick Meaney's jaw? But he's now out 1 to 2 weeks under concussion protocol. So, yes, they got the victory, the Melbourne Storm did, but at what cost is the question, because they are now, they're looking like a hospital ward, because those are some key pieces that are missing now. But do any of us for a second think the bellyache doesn't have the pieces he's going to throw right in there and this team isn't going to go? I'm saying right now, Wishart is fighting for that 14 jersey for the New South Wales club. Him and Connor Watson are probably the two that are battling out to see who's going to get the 14 jersey for the Blues in a few weeks' time. But that's how good of a player he is. So he's going to come right in. And, Pappenhausen, he did some kicking before Meaney got down there for the Storm. So they're going to be fine. And then the Panthers losing Nathan Cleary. Again, they're very, very fortunate that it is not the shoulder again, that it's concussion protocol. But right now, it's still to be determined how long he's out. I'm guessing it's probably going to be 1 to 2 weeks before he clears. He was pretty animated up in the box with his Jedi hoodie on, watching the second half of the match. So you know that he's probably going to be back in a week or two, as long as everything goes to pass. But again, the Melbourne Storm, the Penrith Panthers, we're going to see them at the end of the season. Both of these clubs will be in the mix, and I can't wait to see them take on each other once again. Now, 2 games in a row doesn't sound like much when we talk about a streak for a club, right? You guys are probably looking at me and say, what the heck is the Shedadamus talking about 2 games in a row? Well, I am talking about 2 games in a row because the 2-time reigning wooden spooners, the West Tigers, have won 2 matches in a row. But what makes it different for me this time is what I saw from this club. And it wasn't that they played, a team. Yes, I know the Finns, the Dolphins haven't played great lately starting out this season. But I saw something that I have not seen from a Tigers club for a very, very long time, and that's resolve and patience. And if you're a rugby league savant, if you watch a club, example, like I was just talking about with Penrith, there was no panic with the Penrith Panthers when Nathan Cleary went down, right? And that is what I got when I saw the way the Tigers just processed this match that we just watched. Because they trailed the entire first half, and at one point were down 12 points, I think 18-6, right? And in previous years, especially these last 2 wooden spoon, the match is over. The match is over. Because the Tigers are going to come out there, they're going to start trying to push the issue, they're going to start throwing the ball around, and we know what's going to happen next. It's going to turn into a mistake, either a knock-on or a penalty or a kick out of bounds. Something like that was going to transpire, and it was going to just start the downhill fall. There you watch the water, no matter if you're Australia, going the different way or whatever, but going right down the drain. But that is not this 2025 side. The spine of Galvin, Luai, and Appy, they're different. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but they're different. The West Tigers have something that is starting to go through their veins. And these 3 players that I'm talking about right now, Appy coming back, after missing in the beginning of the season, is a special hooker. He's a special dummy half. And then we haven't even begun to scratch the surface on the halves combination of Galvin and Jerome Luai. Because I think midway through this season, they're going to be special. They are going to be very, very special. And we're going to see them just continue to build in chemistry as we go along. Now, they somehow make that team take a deep breath, process what they're going through, and then convey to them, it's not that bad. We know what we are. We know what we have. Let's just go out there and put to paper what we know we can do. And that's what the special clubs do. That's what these teams that are in the top 4 that you see time and time in, they do that. They have that ability of having players that just are able to calm the side down, convey to them what they need to get done, and then go out there and do it. But here's the thing. Benji Marshall, no matter how much scrutiny he's been under the last couple of years, has found a wild card. And that is in dummy half Talon De Silva. This young man has just burst on the scene. If you're a West Magpies fan, you know who he is because he's been shining with that club for a while down there. But he's a smart young player. And I got to admit to you, Shedheads, I was kind of shocked when I saw Benji running De Silva out as the captain in the preseason trial. I was like, really, okay. And he even said after that talent is going to be an important part of this club going forward, and he's going to be important, and we're going to use him during this season. Because I think a lot of times people are just expecting Appy Curacao to just lead the team around. But with De Silva, now you have the ability to rest Appy, and then you get to see and you get to use his athletic ability. Because they don't fall off in the defensive side with talent in there. He's not afraid to put his shoulder into a tackle. And the good thing that you have with him is when Appy leaves the field, you've got a dummy half that has chemistry with your 5'8". Because Lachlan Galvin and him won the championship with the West Magpies in 2022. And so you've got history there, right? You've got a spine now that works. I don't want to say like no different than if Appy's on the field, because I know if you watch the game, Shedheads, you know how important of a player Appy Curacao is. So, but with Talon De Silva, you get that. You get a guy that comes in. He can be a little bit of a lightning rod when you put him on the field. He can be that kind of wild card, like I said, right? And his try in the 35th minute changed the game because the Tigers never looked back after that. And it was really impressive to see how they just lifted after that. It just really was a breath of fresh air. And I think it just kind of hit me all at once. I saw what Benji saw in this young man. And it really excites me because the whole team is excited. They don't have a letdown when they see this guy run on the field. They're like, all right, okay, so we're running it this way now for a little bit. But in these last few dismal years, the team has lacked grit and it's lacked swagger. And all of the clubs that have been big-time clubs over the history of the game have had that grit where they can get down and get dirty when they need to, and they've had swagger. They've had some type of showpiece that was their Ferrari on the field. That guy that could just lift him up and make the crowd go crazy. And they have filled both places. They have filled both of these needed qualities that a winning side has. And they filled them with, are you ready for this? Terrell May and ex-Panthers live wire, Sinui Turuva. Turuva, to me, I love him. You know, he was my gun of the week last week, right? But let's talk about Terrell May. Because the May Redemption Tour, and by the way, the West Tigers want to, again, thank the Sydney Roosters. Thank you, Chookies, for discarding this guy. Because since he's come to the West Tigers, he has been a man on a mission. 182 running meters, 62 of them post-contact against the Finns, and an astounding 42 tackles. I think that shows you right there what the Tigers have been missing in that number 8 jersey for quite a long time, and it's been filled because Terrell May is on a battering ram redemption tour, and I think it's only going to get better. Now, you always worry because of the physicality of that position of him staying healthy, but right now, the man looks, again, like he's on a mission to show everybody what he's made of and what the Chooks got rid of for some reason. And then you go with the live wire, Sinui Turuva, a guy that I have loved watching since he was with the Penrith Panthers, a guy that seems to play the game. He's got a little Josh Adokard to him, doesn't he? He always seems like he knows a joke that nobody else in the room knows. He's got a smile on his face always. He runs hard nonstop. He never takes a play off, and that's something that I really, really enjoy about him. He runs hard. But he scores 2 more tries against the Dolphins, which is his 5th try now in 3 matches, 150 running meters, 2 line breaks, 4 tackle breaks. But to me, the thing that he's brought is that swagger. The swagger that the Tigers had back in the early teens, right? With Benji. Right? Just the fun that you're just waiting to see what he does next. All right? And that's what Truva brings. But the thing he's also brought is the Tiger Claw. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say the Tiger Claw, take your hand, rip it across your chest, and lift that paw high. Because that has now become the rallying cry for the West Tigers. And he first broke that thing out at Combat Stadium when he all of a sudden turned it into the jungle. And he did that try celebration, and the crowd, the crowd that was in there that was Tigers fans, went insane. They went crazy for this. And I think the last time I saw that type of celebration from a West Tigers club was when it was Mitchell Moses and the young baby Tigers that were all there. James Tedesco. They all were celebrating in the end zone, or in the try line after scoring a try. They were just piling on top of each other. And I think a lot of Tigers fans thought, this is our future. We're coming right back. Little did they know it was still going to be 12 years more, or 13, or 10, or 11 years, whatever. And there was still going to be a graveyard. But that was the last time I saw a celebration like that. And it brought a lot of happiness to me. But the claw, the Tiger Claw. So that happens, right? He does that. He breaks that out against the Eels. But when I knew that it was something special is when I saw Appy Curacao, when he got his try in the 75th minute, go right to that celebration and rake his chest and lift that tiger paw high in the air. And then I started looking at, as the rest of the club comes flying in to celebrate with Appy, more guys starting to lift the tiger claw up in the air. I don't know, Shedheads, if you guys have ever played on any type of organized team, but there's usually a galvanizing moment or something that somebody does that all of a sudden becomes infectious in the group and everybody starts doing it. And that's what I started to see right there. When I started seeing guys who you normally wouldn't see do the Tiger Claw or do a type of celebration like that, start to lift that thing high in the air. And I was like, whoa, there's something going on with the West Tigers. And with this match that's taking place this next week, a match that's going to be really, really exciting, to come after that 30-18 victory over the Dolphins, you've got a team that's just as hot as the West Tigers coming to Campbelltown in the New Zealand Warriors, a team also running a 2-game winning streak. And you're going to be able to see how this team has come together. And the thing that you're also going to notice, and I'm calling this out right now, Shedheads, look in the crowd at the amount of tiger claws you start seeing of fans lifting that thing in the air. Because I think a movement has begun with the West Tigers that we are just starting to see. We've just scratched the surface. And it's a very exciting time. If you look, the jerseys are flying off the shelves. The fans of the West Tigers are an undercurrent that I think we're about ready to start see spark on the surface of the NRL. And I'm really excited to watch it happen. So, exciting times for the Tigers. And let's see how much the jungle continues to spread around the league. Now, as we go into the 40-20, I'm going to come at this at a whole different approach than you're probably expecting your Shedadamas to come at. But in another bombshell player development, Manly skipper Daly Cherry Evans has informed the club and the world of rugby league on 100% footy that the 2025 season will be his final season with the Manly Sea Eagles. All right. Where do I go with this? I'm tired. There it is. I'm just going to say it, Shedheads. I am tired. I am tired that 2 of the 3 first rounds of this season have been pirated, have been smuggled, have been stolen away from the game because of 2 players' contract situations. And listen, hey, I am one of the guys. Rugby league is one of the most physically demanding sports on the planet. Maybe number one in my eyes. All right? What these guys put their bodies through, I am not a guy that's sitting up here saying they don't deserve every dollar that they earn. They deserve it all, right? But contract situations and players leaving clubs to go to other clubs overshadow the product on the field. And that is what upsets me with this. DCE has every bit and every right to say that he doesn't want to play at Manly. Dylan Brown has every right to say, I'm taking a 10-year deal, I want to go with the Knights, but not during the season. This is the thing to me that the NRL is really missing, and I think it's really leaving a black eye. For as many great steps as the game has taken in the positive direction, going international, coming to Vegas, all of those steps, to me, in some ways get washed out about the way they handle the contract situations and the player movement in the game. Because I'm telling you right now, if you're listening to this podcast, welcome, first off, all my foreign listeners. But if you're listening to this podcast in Australia, I don't think you guys fully understand how Americans view guys, or it would not be allowed in this country if the starting pitcher of the Los Angeles Dodgers, if LeBron James with the Los Angeles Lakers, if I don't know, Wayne Gretzky for the Edmonton Oilers, LA Kings, said halfway through the season, you know what, I'm taking my talents and going to another club next season. But I'm still going to finish the rest of this season playing for you guys. Hope you still love me. Thumbs up. Let's go. Not happening. Not for a second. Listen to this. When LeBron James, after the season, went on national television here in the States, the divided states, not as divided then, but still, went on television and said that he was taking his talents to South Beach. By 10 o'clock that night, Cleveland Cavaliers fans were showing up at the Cleveland Stadium and burning LeBron's jerseys, even though he is an Akron boy, even though he is an Ohio through and through guy, burning his jerseys in effigy because they were done with him. All right? So what do you think is going to happen? Because we've already watched it start to begin with Dylan Brown. We've already watched the Eels, who are a loyal fan base, a fan base that Dom has showed me from the time I got into this game, that they follow their teammates, they follow their players, they're supportive, right? They booed Dylan Brown, right? And let me ask you, why wouldn't they? Dylan Brown, even though he's finishing the season in the blue and gold, has said, I'm turning my back on you guys after this next season. Does Dylan Brown have the right to do it? Heck yes, Dylan Brown has the right to do it. And you tell me what player would not take the contract that the Newcastle Knights offered him. But it scuttles your season. And what happens is halfway through the season, then some of the teams start going, well, let's just let him leave early. Let's let him leave early. And instead of finishing the season strong, you have players that are leaving their club and going abroad and not even finishing the season. Or if they do stay, it becomes a cancer effect in that shed, inside that locker room. It becomes divided. Some players are siding with one guy. Some players are siding with the other guy. Some people some players get frustrated about the money he's asking for. Is it a money grab? Should he? All of that stuff. Instead of talking about which play should we run, the narrative becomes this guy is leaving us after this season. And the NRL has to fix this. The season ends in early October. Have the trades, the salaries, have all of that stuff take place from October till the end of November. Give it a full month, 2-month window to get all that stuff ironed out. But they're missing the point of people looking at a guy that they're supposed to support a player that they may love and know that he's turning his back on the club next season. And I don't understand how the powers that be at the NRL do not see what this does. What this does to fan bases, to clubs. And it's not that hard of a fix. And again, listen to what I'm saying, Shedheads. I want these guys to make the money they deserve to make. I want them to get their 10-year contracts if it's available to get. I want them to be able to pick where they want to play if they can make that happen. But not during the season. Not during the season whatsoever. And I'm going to tell you something right now. DCE has been manly through and through. Besides that tiny little period when he said he was going to go to the Gold Coast Titans and he backflipped because he never truthfully wanted to leave Manly, right? His family is Northern Beaches through and through. You know, I think he's got 2 or 3 daughters right now. He just got married to his partner. All of that type of stuff, right? That's where his family is. But stuff has happened behind the scenes, stuff that we will never know right now. We'll probably find out things, little pieces at a time. Either, Manly didn't give him a 2-year contract, whatever it may be. Again, DCE has the right, it's his career, to do what he can do, to be where he wants to be, and to make the money he deserves to make. But that should not be happening during the season, because something's going to happen at Four Pines, Brookvale Oval, whatever you want to call it. DCE is going to start feeling harsh criticism. He's going to get booed. And he's not going to have the fan support that he's had for his entire career at Manly. And I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a guy that should be a crowd favorite, who's been one of the best players that Manly has ever had, and he's now going to be seen as a pariah because, for whatever reason, he is taking his talents, not to South Beach, but either back to the Dolphins or to the Chooks or to the Dogs. Who knows where he's going? But don't for a second think that DCE is going to hang up the boots at the end of the season, because that's not happening. DCE is going to play on. But I will tell you right now, I'm getting off my soapbox, but the NRL needs to fix this. Because I do not want player contracts and movement to be overshadowing the 3 incredible weeks of footy we just watched. And 2 of the weeks have been talked about 2 different players. You're missing the boat of the game not being the game is the most important thing. But I find it hard to believe that this bombshell announcement is not going to flatten the tires, or at least one of the tires, on Manly's push to try to win another title while DC is there. Because I think it's going to rip that club apart from the inside out. And instead of talking about performance on the field, we're going to be talking about what it's like in the sheds and how is DC handling and coping with the backlash of his flip to leaving the club. And it shouldn't be happening. But again, hopefully the NRL figures this out soon and we get a player trade contract signing period after the season. Listen to me, after the season. So it's going to be interesting to see where this, reality TV series that is now the DCE Files and the Dylan Brown Files go from here. Now, Shedheads, let's talk something positive. I want to get away from all that stuff, and I want to talk about the game. And first, the NRL hit it out of the park by Vegas. Vegas getting stronger year after year. And now the rugby league world is about to be treated to an event that has not happened in 22 years, and that is the return of the Ashes. That's right, Australia versus England, another Kangaroos tour. And I've heard about some of these tours. Listen to Joey Johns, Andrew Johns talk about going overseas and how it just made the Australian boys all pull tight together. But this has been signed. It is the way that we are going to finish the 2025 rugby league season. And we've got a 3-game, 3-match total event that's going to take place in England. Game 1 starting Saturday, October 25th at Wembley Stadium in London. It's going to be something monumental to see. Then a week later, game 2 will be Saturday, November 1st at Everton's new stadium. I think it's a 53,000-seat stadium. It is a state-of-the-art facility. It's going to be awesome to watch the game take place there. And then game 3 will be Saturday, November 8th at Headingley Stadium, where the Leeds team plays. It's a little bit smaller of a stadium, but it's going to be rocking to watch that go and take place inside that stadium. This will be a monumental clash. I cannot wait to see. I know that the English boys are starting to feel more and more comfortable taking on the Aussie boys. But again, to be the man, you got to beat the man. So they're going to have to show that they've got their chops set to go full steam ahead, because I think Australia is going to have a lot to prove. And I can't wait for players like Brad Fittler and Andrew Johns and all of these greats of the game to sit down with these players who have not had a Kangaroos tour like this, or an Ashes event, as some people will call it as well. How they are going to sit down and talk to these players about what this means to the game and how they need to represent Australia. It is going to be awesome to watch. And I think what makes me excited about it is, once again, it gives the chance for the game of rugby league to show its best on the international stage, to end the season, and to really kind of buoy itself and to fire into 2026 and the Vegas, teams will be ready to go to Vegas, and everybody's going to be riding a high. So it's a great event that's getting ready to come up. I can't wait for it, and I hope you guys are excited too. But the return of the Ashes, and isn't it nice talking about actually the game instead of contracts? Anyway, so excited about that. I hope you all are too. Now, let's go into round 4. Some of these matches that we've got, I'm excited. We've got some really good ones. Starting off with the Panthers versus the Rabbitohs in a matter of hours. I'm going to take the Penny Panthers. I think that Penrith, after they've again found their steel in these last 2 matches, I think they're ready to put on a display. And yes, they're not going to be playing at home, but I think they are going to show something special against the Rabbitohs, and they're going to get the victory to kick off round 4 in a matter of hours on Thursday night. Friday, Titans versus the Roosters. I know everybody was really, really excited about the Titans' victory over the Knights, but Keanu Kenny is out this match, and I think the Chooks, even though they did lose in the Rubble Islands against the Waz, I think they have a point to prove, and I think they get the victory over the Titans this kickoff Friday night. And then we've got another battle of Queensland, the Broncos versus the Dolphins. The Finns still have not won. The Broncos have now kind of righted their ship after they beat the Cows. I'm going with the Broncos again to continue their upward trend. I just think they have too much for the Dolphins right now. Might not be the same later in the season, but at this current juncture, I'm taking the Broncos over the Dolphins. Saturday starts off with a game that really had me kind of going back and forth. Storm versus the Dragons. I really think the Dragons, by the end of the season, will make their way up into the 8. I just don't think they're going to be able to start that ascending by a victory over the Storm. I think that Wishart filing into the halves with Cameron Munster, those guys are going to look really well, going to look good, they're going to look strong. I'm taking the Storm to get that victory over the Dragons, even though it's on the road. Then we've got the Raiders going up to Townsville against the Cows. Like I said, I think the Cowboys are about ready to start to play better football and hopefully start getting some results for Todd Payton. But I think that Sticky is going to have those boys fired up. Tapping his back, I just think that the Raiders are going to be ready to go. They're going to get that victory. And again, put more pressure on Todd Payton to get the Cows going in the opposite direction. And that would be going up. And then finally, to end Saturday, maybe the match of the round, Bulldogs versus the Sharks. It's at Shark Park, and to me, that's where the difference is. I think that the Burton Kickow absences will really be shown. I think the Sharks Nico and Tricky will expose the Bulldogs. I really think the Sharks are going to have a point to prove, and they're going to show, and I think they're going to have a better second half as well. So I'm taking the Sharks to round out and to finish Saturday night. Sunday, Eels versus the Sea Eagles. We know the history and the hate between the Parramatta Eels and the Manly Sea Eagles. The only reason that I hesitated for a second picking this match is because I did not know what the reverberation of the DCE announcement is going to be in the Manly sheds. I'm still going to go with Manly. Turbo comes back to this week. But I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how Manly comes out on the field and how they play at Brookvale Oval and the reception of DCE, how that affects the club. But I'm still going to go with Manly. But I think the Eels are really going to push them. I really do. And then finally, to me, what I feel the match of the round is going to be the Warriors coming to Campbelltown to take on the Tigers. I'm going with the Tigers to get the victory. I think that them playing in Campbelltown is going to help them get their third victory in a row. And lo and behold, if you look at the ladder, the West Tigers are in the top 4 at this current juncture. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can continue to raise the Tiger Claw to the NRL and the rest of the rugby league world. Now, my gun of the round, Ruben Garrick, 4 tries, 6 for 7 on conversions, 89 running meters, 3 line breaks, 7 tackle breaks, 12 tackles made, and 1 baby daughter in the equation. Congratulations to the new papa and to his missus. But a great performance by Ruben Garrick, a guy that I've talked about. If you've listened to my show for a while, you know I've always talked up Ruben Garrick. I think he's really a special player. Especially for Manly. He really steps his game up week in and week up. You never hear the term Ruben Garrick had an off game. He always plays tough for that maroon jersey. And it's good to see him getting the gun of the round and becoming a dad. Congratulations again to him on his fatherhood. Now, Shedheads, I'm not going to break out the drums, but a new segment on the show is being displayed, is being opened up to you now. Ask the Sheda. That's right. I wanted to reach out to my fans, reach out to the listeners, to you Shedheads, to ask your Shedadamus a question that I can answer live here on the podcast. And this one comes from Steve. Steve asks, and I quote, "How are the interactions with your mates about the NRL? Are they interested, and what are their thoughts on our bloody snacking game?" Let me say those last 3 words. On our bloody snacking game. All right. Steve, first off, thank you for the question. This is a funny thing. First off, my mates over here in the States think you're crazy. They think rugby league players are insane. Because the first thing they always ask is, where are their pads? Where are their helmets? That's the first thing they can't get over. Right? It's not the short shorts anymore because for some reason I go to the gym now and I think some of these guys are wearing their sister's shorts. But it is about the team, the players are putting these hits on, these tackles, and there's no helmet or shoulder pads on them. They don't really understand that from the time rugby league players start, they're taught to tackle and to put that shoulder right into the hip. Now, we know that sometimes these guys catch their heads in the wrong position and things happen and as you would expect. But that's the first thing they usually ask. Where are their helmets and pads? When they get past that, I've got a really good mate of mine who I'm really trying to turn on to the game. I pretty much have given him everything else. From a cat to his favorite soccer club. But he said he's really willing to kind of look into the game a little bit more. The hardest part that the NRL has and rugby league has is that the matches happen so late at night, and if you don't know what you're really what you're ready to watch, are you ready to sacrifice something you really don't know? So the NRL is really trying hard, pushing, watch NRL. And some of the matches are on Fox Soccer Channel over here, and you can watch some replays. But the Fox app over here is so backwoods. If you don't watch a match within like 3 days or whatever, you can't watch it, and it's not available to be watched anymore. So stuff like that. The game isn't given the respect it's given right now. But I think, like anything, it just takes some time and for people to see it. And with the Vegas being on regular Fox over here, it really opened some more eyes to the game. So we'll see. There was a good turnout from American fans in Vegas this last year. And when I was in Vegas, a lot of the Uber drivers and the cabbies and all those guys knew that rugby league was here in town for this weekend. So I guess that's my answering to your question, Steve, is that they are shocked that there's no pads or helmets. But I live in a violent country, so violence is all right, and they don't mind seeing a hard tackle. And that's, how the game is being portrayed. No helmets or pads. So there's a lot to love about this game, and I just hope it catches on a little bit more. So I guess that's my answer to that. So thanks again for your questions, Steve. But Shedheads, keep those questions coming in. You never know, your Sheda might read your question next week and ask the Sheda. But I hope you guys are excited. I'm telling you, we've got some more barn burner matches that we've got this round. And again, I really think that Tigers-Warriors match is going to be off the chain. But like I tell you every week, Shedheads, take care of each other. Stay out of trouble. Don't get caught. But this has been Outside the Sheds. I am your Shedadamus. Until next week. See ya.
And that was another fantastic episode of Outside the Sheds with Corey Jackson, talking all things NRL and all things sports. So please remember to smash the subscribe button and share this with your family and friends and show them what Australian sport is all about.